Hi guys, my name is Daniel Holloway from chefholloway.com, and this is episode 2 of From Farm to the Table. So I'm going to talk about an Ontario legend, ice wine. And so for those of you who know me, know that I love wine, in particular ice wine. So what I would like to do, the holidays are coming up, so all of us are looking for a nice, quick, easy dish to use during the holidays. I'm going to utilize the ice wine and integrate it into a chutney over some Cornish hen. So here we go. So we're here in Niagara, Ontario, and we're at Legends Estates Winery, and they produce an award-winning ice wine. I just want to talk about how it's produced and picked, the ice wine. So it can't exceed -9 degrees and it has to be frozen for 2 days. And while it's picked, it has to be picked while it's frozen. But like wines, regular wines, there's different varieties of grapes that produce different varieties of flavors. Like Vidal produces a nice honey flavor. You have Cabernet Franc with fruity undertones, and then you have a Riesling which has a nice citrus flavor to it. So I want to utilize this ice wine and produce a nice robust chutney with apples and cranberries. Over top Cornish hen, a seared Cornish hen that I'm going to sear on my skillet, and then I'm going to have a nice autumn vegetable hash. And so I guess it's to the kitchen, guys. I got my Cornish hen. Two Cornish hens, I got them at the market. They're available at Loblaws, Fortinos, basically anywhere now. You don't have to use Cornish hen. You can use turkey or chicken, any sort of poultry is fine. So I'm going to break this down. It's like any other poultry out there. You just make an incision in the breast, slide your knife, and you don't want to saw it because then you're going to get an uneven cut and it's going to burn in some places. Now the reason why I picked Cornish hen is this nice, it's nice and small for little bits and tasty bites for the holidays. It's a nice platter size. I'm going to take off the breast here. I'm going to spread the leg out, make an incision and cut it around the bone. Okay. Now I normally save the carcass because I like to make fresh chicken stocks. They can easily be thrown into a freezer bag, freeze them, pop them out, throw in some garlic, some onions and some carrots and make yourself a stock. It's better than store-bought stocks that are high in sodium. So I'm going to reserve that. Now you want to wash your hands because you don't want to cross-contaminate your food. Okay guys, I got my Cornish hen which I've broken down. I'm just going to season it. But first, before you do that, I have a cardinal rule. I don't know if you've noticed, but you have to pat down your meat, any kind of meat, whether it's strip loin, any kind of steak, chicken. You got to pat it down nice and dry because you want a caramelization on the skin or the surface. I got a smoking hot pan, and this is also important. You got to have a hot pan. Just going to season that with some salt and pepper, a little bit of oil. I would say maybe 2 tablespoons. And here we go. Once those are flipped, you're going to toss that into the hot oven. I preheat my oven at 350. I'm doing this because I want a head start on this potato, sweet potato, because it's very, very hard. So I want them to have the same consistency as the other vegetables in there, like for instance my onions, Brussels sprouts, because they cook at a much faster rate. So I'm just going to square this off. It can be a rustic cut, you don't have to be pretty with it. Actually, for me, I like a hash to be more rustic, the more the better. I'm just going to plop those in there. I season my water with salt and pepper just to give some infused flavor in there, and let that boil for about 30 seconds or so. Meanwhile, I have a bulb turnip which I'm going to show you how to do. Now, you can find this in Fortinos again. I find that a lot of these superstores are carrying a lot more product, especially Ontario product as well, which is great. So I'm just going to take it and peel it from the top to the bottom. And they go into the pool. These are going to get a head start as well, again, because they're hard. So I'm going to put my pan on to heat. I have medium to high heat. I'm going to get that going and then saute my onions. So what I have here is a hot pan. I got about a quarter cup of butter here. I'm just going to toss in a little bit of oil just because I don't want my butter to burn. Put your onions in. Julienne, about maybe a cup of onions. And I have a lemon here with a rasp. And you can get a rasp or a microplaner or a grater, any sort of grocery store. I'm going to just run my lemon across, maybe a half a lemon. You don't want to grate the white stuff on the lemon because it's really bitter. All you want is the yellow flesh. That's where the flavor is. I got fresh rosemary, thyme, and savoury. I'm going to add that to my onions. Just a pinch. I have about maybe 8 Brussels sprouts, medium size to small size, that are cut. Just going to pop those in. Give them a toss, incorporate them. Let those cook down, and then I have my sweet potato and turnip that I just blanched. They're still nice and crispy, very earthy in texture. Give those puppies a toss. And for an extra hit, I have a 10-year-old balsamic that I'm going to use. I mean, I'm just amping it up a little. If you guys want to stick to the basic, you can just use this. I like balsamic. It gives a nice undertone of acidity. It's going to really help out the lemon flavor as well, and caramelize because of the sugars. And of course, the star of the show, salt and pepper. Kosher salt, of course. Give that a toss, nice and caramelized. And this is going to take a trip into the oven. Okay guys, now it's time for the coup de grace. I'm going to make my chutney now. I'm just going to walk through the items that I'm going to use. So I got maybe about 150 milliliters of ice wine. I have about 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. About 1 medium-sized onion, chopped medium. 1 apple that is cut rough. I have fresh cranberries. Now this is very important. Please do not use canned cranberries. The taste is just very, very different. Like this has a more richness to it, and it's fresher. So I want to promote this. And then I have about a cup of sugar. Sugar will help bind the chutney, as well give a nice punch of sweetness as well. What I want is, again, a quarter cup of butter. Put a little bit of oil in there so it doesn't burn. Pop in your onions. Let those caramelize. Now it might seem like a lot of butter for this recipe. I like to use a lot of butter in the chutney because it gives a nice smoothness and it infuses all the flavors together. It produces like a nice silky texture to it. So while those are getting nice, I'm going to pop in my apples. The pectin in the apples and in the cranberries as well will help solidify the chutney, and it will produce like a nice and chunky kind of presentation onto it, on top of the Cornish hen. Also, I got the remainder of my freshly chopped herbs. I like to put them in at this point just so that the oils from the herbs are nicely infused. Pop those in. Now initially when you're cooking a chutney or any sort of sauce or soup, you'll hear two sounds. The initial sound you'll hear is a high, like a searing sound. When that sound starts to be a little more mute and melt, that means it's ready to deglaze. That means that the sugars have been concentrated, and you want to lift all the sugar stuck to the pan off, because that's flavor. So any sort of acid will be fine. So my acid today is lemon juice, and of course ice wine. I'm going to pop the heat up to high temperature just because I want it to boil and then reduce down. All the sugars will just redistribute inside, the liquid will evaporate. So once the chutney is reduced by half, by that I mean the liquid, you want to add your sugar and then stir that in. You don't want to add your salt and pepper just yet. You might be tempted to, but you really don't want to, because the salt flavor will intensify and your chutney will become too salty. So once you add your sugar, you still want it to reduce down by maybe another quarter or so, a third, because you really want that chunkiness. The sugar will help not only sweeten it, but it'll also help to bind it together like a true chutney should. Pull out my Cornish hen first because I really want it to rest while I'm plating the other things. If you don't let your meat rest for at least 5 minutes or so, all the juices are just going to bleed out all over your plate, and it's going to look like... I'm just going to put this on a clean plate. Here comes the autumn veg. Alright, it's time to put the party on the plate. So I'm going to put my Cornish hen on the plate. It's been resting for about 5 minutes or so. I'm just going to plate it rustic. And then finally my chutney. This is beautiful, nice and thick. I'm just going to put that over top. Look at the color on this. This is nuts. I got toasted hazelnuts. You can use cashews, you can use almonds. A little bit of garnish here. My favorite part, eating. It's time to make the cameraman jealous. What I really like about the ice wine, it really comes through. It's nice and intense with the sweetness. It balances perfectly with the hash, what I wanted. So this is the perfect dish for the autumn season for sure, and the holidays. Nice and colorful. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. My name is Daniel Holloway from ChefHolloway.com. Thanks for stopping by. And remember, great food's at your back door.